Well, good morning. I'm absolutely delighted to be with you this morning. As Alan kindly said, my name is John Duff and I chair the Charitable Trust of Safe Deposits. And I'm here to give you a little bit of background about Safe Deposits Charitable Trust, what we do, our objectives, etc. But maybe I should talk a little bit about me. Now, I've put on the background, and Alan asked me earlier on where the background was. For those of you who've been in New Zealand, this is one of my favourite places in the world. This is South Island, New Zealand, and this is called Fiordland, and you're looking down Milford Sound. And why I've put this on is my wife always calls me an employment tourist because I move about quite a lot in my 45-year working career. I've worked in property extensively. I was the property director of a livestock market for a while. I worked with the Scottish Development Agency. I've been on the board of Falkirk College. I've been on the board of Stevenson College. I was the chairman of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. I was delighted to be invited to join the board of Safe Deposits Charitable Trust at its inception, because we're almost unique in the sense that our major start point was, as a group, after our costs, we would give away our profit. And we'll come on to that more as we develop this webinar today. But this is a unique feature about Safe Deposits in terms of deposit holding organisations in Scotland. Now, I have a board of 7 trustees, and we'll talk you a little through the kind of things that we do. So my background is extensively in property. I hasten to say I personally, with my wife, also rent out property. So we have first-hand knowledge of some of the issues that go on. And I'd certainly be interested to hear from you how you're all getting on from the various careers that you're in. So that's a little of my background. I'm now retired and play a lot of golf, so I've got loads of time. So Alan's kindly said I've taken time out. I've only taken time out from playing golf, to be quite honest. So there you go. Anyway.
Thanks very much, Sean, for that background there. And you mentioned there, obviously, the Charitable Trust is unique, certainly in Scotland. Safe Deposits Scotland is the only not-for-profit tenancy deposit scheme, and we'll go into the kind of logistics in that a little bit more in a moment. But would you mind perhaps giving our viewers here an insight into the aims, the principles of the trust, and why it exists?
As some of you know, and I think I said earlier on, this was a key part of Safe Deposits when it was established, that we said to government, what we will do is we will give away the profit that we make after our costs. Clearly there are salaries, there's buildings and so on and so forth, but we would give it away. The trust was launched in 2016, so we're now been in operation for 5 years. And the aims of the trust are quite clear. And those of you who probably know as much, if not more than me, about charities will know that you have to very specifically identify what your aims are to the charity commissioners. And we've done that. And our our aims are to advance education and to advance conflict resolution. Now, if you bear with me, I'm going to read out what our aims are because I think it's important. And one of the things that we maybe haven't touched on is that the Safe Deposits Charitable Trust has its own website. So all this material is on that website. If you want to go and look at it, you don't pick up what I'm saying. It's all there. And again, Alan Partridge is more than happy to direct you to it if you want to look at it. So our aims for the trust are to advance education, particularly in relation to best practice in the management of private rented housing, and to legal rights and obligations which are of particular relevance to those who are involved in the provision or management of private rented sector housing, or who hold tenancies within the private rented housing sector. So you can see this first objective covers the landlords, it covers the tenants, it covers the agents. So it's a whole variety of people that we can relate to. And our second aim is to advance conflict resolution. Now, those of you involved in the PRS will know that traditionally there's been quite a lot of use of legal redress, and one of the things we wanted to try and help was to see if there were easier ways for everyone to get to the resolution of conflicts. These often are about things like maintenance of the house, cleaning it, etc. So the second aim of our organisation is to advance conflict resolution through promoting the use of alternative dispute resolution processes for the more efficient resolution of disputes between landlords and tenants within the private housing sector. So that hopefully gives you a little bit about what we are about. So Alan, I don't know if we want to maybe move on to about the trust a little bit more.
Yeah, that's ideal. Thank you very much, John. And just to mention to everybody there, you can find those aims verbatim on our website as well. That's www.safedepositscotlandtrust.com, and I'll share that address at the end of the webinar as well there. But yeah, John, as we see there, like what a lot of people will see, landlords, letting agents, tenants who use safe deposits, they'll see a lot of our communications about sometimes the call to action, asking people to apply with us, and they'll see the other side when we come out with news about projects that have been funded. But I guess there's the bit in between is what a lot of people who, unless they've dealt directly with the trust, won't know how it actually works. So I wonder if you could maybe summarise some of that.
Okay, where we are, the first thing we'd say to people is, if you have even an embryo of an idea about something you would like the trust to fund, Alan Partridge is your first port of contact. If you contact Alan, he'll be able to give you more information about whether this is something that he feels can fit in with what the trust is about. There are 7 trustees, and we go out of our way to make sure that the trustees represent landlords and tenants as far as we can. We have one lady on as our trustee. She and her husband have, I think, 150 let properties. So clearly a lot of day-to-day experience of the types of issues that come up in day-to-day letting. We have a lawyer on our trust board who deals with issues about between when things get into a kind of legal conflict situation. So we've got quite a wide diversity. When an application is received, Alan potentially is the first port of call. We then have an accountant who looks at the viability of the project, because what we're keen to do is we'll fund projects for 1 year, for 2 years, for 3 years. Our ideal is that these projects involve other organisations as well. So clearly we're trying to encourage partnership working wherever we can. What we aren't about is we can't offer indefinite core funding. Clearly what we're trying to do is to encourage projects to get going that will have a role for maybe 1 or 2 years. And I can talk a little bit about the kind of projects we've funded in over time. We're fortunate that we've had a good number of projects come to us in the 5 years that we've been around. And just to give you a sense, Alan, of where we are, so far we've allocated £775,640. Now this gives myself and our trustees and Safe Deposits great pleasure, insofar as we said we're a bit like Ron Seal. We said that we were going to do it, and we are doing it. We hope that we'll be in a position where we've given away £1 million within the next year or so. We don't know exactly. Clearly, the low interest rates have restricted the amount of money that we would have hoped to give away, but we are still a substantial funder in terms of charities in Scotland. And just to give you a sense of the range of things, our grants have ranged from 1,600. So we're willing to look at very small projects if they are relevant. And that was to Edinburgh Napier Law Clinic. And and that was for the training of volunteers in mediation. And we felt that was potentially very interesting because that was about a university. And you can imagine groups of students, issues about maintaining and housekeeping and all that kind of stuff, a number of issues through to our largest single grant, which is 52,800, which we've awarded to Blairgowrie and Rattray Development Trust for a heat project, which is about the improving insulation in houses. Now that's one in the rural area. And one of the things that I'm very keen on is, you can imagine, you folks who potentially are in the west of Scotland, you may be in other parts of Scotland, the deprivation in the west of Scotland clearly is most significant, and we started with quite a number of projects in the west of Scotland. But I, as the chairman, have been very keen to see that the projects are not just all in the west of Scotland. We've got projects in Clackmannanshire, we've got projects in Edinburgh, we've got projects in Dundee, we've got projects in Aberdeen, Blairgowrie I've mentioned already. We've also got projects in Inverness. And I constantly say to people, we're desperately keen to make sure that this covers the whole land area of Scotland, from Stranraer to Shetland and from Stornoway to Eyemouth. Wherever you are, if the project is relevant, we're there to support. Now, I think I said it earlier on, this is unique. We are the only organisation which holds tenant deposits, which uses our profit for charitable purposes. So I believe that our sister organisation in the south, Tenant Deposits, they also give away their profit, but we're certainly unique in Scotland.
Great. And interesting, you mentioned just a couple of examples of the projects that have been funded at either end of the scale there. As you say, we have everything from individual PhD students to household name charities that have been supported, as well as lots of other organisations in between there. Are there any other kind of particularly memorable examples or highly impactful examples?
I think all the projects. One of the things I constantly say to our board is that we've got to make the right decisions, but we also take risks, and we review how successful projects are. What we say to people is, when we award money, we would like the individuals involved in that project to review how they've got on. We say to people, look, if it's worked out well, tell us. If it hasn't worked out well, we all need to learn. That may not be something that we would do again. So there's a whole learning process from the trust point of view and the deliverers of the projects. Now, it goes without saying that recently COVID has had a big impact in terms of, we now meet virtually using Zoom, whereas in the past we used to meet in Glasgow. And many of our projects have found it very tough going, because a lot of them are advisory projects where it involves individuals meeting, and people, Zoom is great as a business tool, but it doesn't always work where you've got people with complex problems. So yes, we're doing well. COVID has made it quite difficult for some of our delivery.
I think, just if may interrupt, there's something that I think it's worth mentioning as well, as somebody who's liaised with a lot of these organisations. I think I would really pay tribute to the response we saw from the charities last year when, the thunderbolt that was the pandemic struck, and so many of the organisations, they didn't let it deter them. They carried on doing what they set out to do, albeit in a different format. There was projects that were set to be in-person workshops, but they took them online. Others where they had broader audiences to reach, and they used every other method they could to get in touch with people, be that phone, video as well. So I think that's a real kind of testament to the hard work that goes into all of these projects by the charities that deliver them. So
Alan's touched on it. We funded things like a student at Glasgow University doing a PhD into the private rented housing sector, and that research will be made available, because one of the things we're very keen on the educational side is where we fund a project through academia or whatever, that information is made available and we increase the supply of information. With our sister organisation, TDS Down South, we're funding a major project into rented housing, and this itself will provide a large repository of information, and there will be a number of webinars on private rented accommodation that will be made available. This will give lots of information about numbers, about state of properties, and so on and so forth, and that will be available. We're now into, Alan, I think I recall it's the third year we're now into this project, and the conclusions will come out within 2022. Now, we've funded to date about 28 projects. What I said earlier on was what we're keen not to do. We're keen to fund things that wouldn't have happened otherwise. You know, things that local authorities may have as their normal requirements. We see that as something that they should be funding. We fund things through, and I'll give you 2 or 3 examples. We funded a project. We've done quite a number with shelter, so we're funding from that end right the way through. The 3 that I was going to focus on this morning, number 1 is Action for Children. This is called a family sustainment service. And the project's in Dundee, and it supported 59 families with 150 children between April 2019 and March 2020. And what the project was about is supporting families in maximising benefits. One of the things that we've clearly encountered is a lot of many of the difficulties in rented property. There are also social problems with the individuals as well in the houses, where, let's say, their literacy skills may not be of the best, and these projects have helped maximise benefits, because often there are state benefits available, but individuals aren't aware of where they are, how they claim them, and so on and so forth. So this project at the same time secured the return of £30,000 in rent arrears to landlords. So by going into this project, we assisted the tenants to get, hopefully, their lives a bit more into a more reasonable shape. We also helped the landlords, because that's an important part for us as well. So the landlords got 30,000 of rent that would otherwise not have been returned to them. The second project I'd like to touch on is Clackmannanshire Citizens Advice Bureau. And the project's called Housing Advice and Mediation Service. And this project operated from June 2019 to June 2021. And this employed, often what our projects will do is they'll employ an individual to assist. Now, in this case, there was an employment of a qualified housing advisor whose time was specifically dedicated to assisting and supporting private rented sector tenants and landlords. And across the lifetime of the project, 271 cases were recorded, and advice was provided on 726 issues. The direct financial gain to clients over the lifetime of the project was £40,113. So again, this is a different way of assisting tenants and thereby helping landlords to get the private rented sector, which you folks who are listening to this webinar will know, like me, that many people don't realise what a large part of the housing market private rented stock is. Private rented stock is now a larger part of the housing market than social housing. In the days when I was a wee boy, you started off in a council house. Well, that's all gone because Maggie Thatcher sold them all off, and this huge shift into private rented stock is something that we're recognising, and it's a much more disparate sector rather than whereas in council housing it was all organised. This tends to be, and the vast majority of landlords own one property. Many of the landlords, not them all, but many fall heir to properties. So you've got quite an interesting learning exercise. A lot of you folk will represent professional landlords, but there are many who are almost accidental landlords, that somebody's passed away and they've inherited a house and so on and so forth. Hence the reason we're involved in this. And the final project I'd like to just touch on briefly is Scottish Mediation. And we funded a Mediating Ways workshop between 2019 and 2020. And Scottish Mediation developed and delivered this workshop to help letting agents improve conflict and relationship building skills with a view to preventing issues escalating into costly disputes. A total of 79 participants took part in workshops across the country, and they reached from Inverness down to Prestwick. So again, quite a diversity. But what I would say as the chairman is giving examples. Fine if people come forward with similar projects in different parts of Scotland, that's fine. But that is not to limit the breadth of your expertise and your knowledge. This is only the start. Yes, we're 5 years down the line, but even we are still getting to grips with the kind of projects. So if you have an idea, please come forward. One of the good things for us is we still have funds to support projects. And in a time when public money is quite limited, it's a rather pleasing situation to be in, where SafeDeposits give us money each year and we can then give it away for relevant projects. Alan, if I pass it back to you.
Thanks, John. That was a really interesting detail about those three projects. And as you mentioned earlier on, John, there's about 28 projects in total we've funded to date. So practically just scratching the surface with those, but all very important examples. I'll just briefly mention some of the others just to kind of give everybody an idea of the diversity that John mentioned of the projects we've had. The projects that have been designed to prevent homelessness. There's been supporting tenement management, so that's a very important issue in Scotland in general at the moment, is the preservation of built heritage, but the work that the guys at Under One Roof does really supports landlords there to help manage tenements and kind of deal with the hurdles that sometimes might be presented with co-owners of other flats within blocks there. We've had Deaf Action, one of the projects that was introduced in the last year. They produced some fantastic resources, including some BSL videos and other workshops and resources for both landlords and tenants within the sector that are deaf or have hearing difficulties. We've had projects designed to support new migrant communities into Scotland and entrance to PRS for the first time. So there really is all manner of projects been funded, and as John says there, it's not always things that we would automatically think of, but there will be charities that have a particular area or a particular responsibility, and those are the people that kind of make the connection between what they do and their service users, if you like, that are in the private rented sector. So
I think Alan's making a really good point there, that one of the things that we've learned is there are certain groups who have particular difficulty. I've talked about disadvantage in terms of education and finance and so on and so forth. The project that we supported where people were deaf, that was a real bonus in terms of we hadn't realised the scale, and they're so grateful in terms of help them and their tenants in properties and the resources. Shelter has been a major beneficiary of monies that we've got where we've been down the route of homelessness. So there's a whole range of things, and I suspect there are still many areas that you folks at this webinar could say, why are you not doing that? And the answer will be, that's a really good idea. The other thing I would say is, as a trust, we also try and go out proactively. Alan here is our official within the organisation, knocks on doors periodically to try and make sure that people are aware that the trust is around. We live in a very complex world, and we appreciate that when you're all busy, you may not have time to realise that we've got potentially funds to support you. So we're proactively going out to potential beneficiaries and giving them a nudge. Some of them it may not be relevant, but if we don't ask or they don't ask, then we don't know about each other. We've also done projects where people have bits of the funding in place, you guys know one of the big tricks in life when you're trying to get a project going is the cost may be 50 grand and you've got 20 grand of funding, but you've still got a gap. Well, we're more than happy to look at projects where our funding is not the whole. Some of the projects I've talked about this morning, we fund the whole cost of the project, full stop. Our preference is to fund projects where there are others involved, because that tends to get a wider reach out into the economy and the PRS sector. But we're more than happy to look at projects where there are gaps in funding. If we can look at it, then fine. So a whole breadth of things for you to think about.
So we're approaching the time. We'll probably aim to make some time for any of our guests here to ask some questions, but I'll just go touch on a couple of other points with you there, John. Are there any types of projects that you or the other trustees are particularly keen to hear about? You've probably touched on some of this so far, but
I think so. I think the first thing to say is our aims are very clear, and I know it sounds awfully bureaucratic, but with the charity commissioners, we had to say at the start what our aims are. So it's always important to look and see if what you're wanting funding for fits in generally with the aims of the trust. That would be the first thing. We're very keen where there are other areas. Alan talked about immigrants. There clearly can be language issues going on there. There can be cultural issues. That might be an area that we might have to get more into as people from, dare I say, Afghanistan, where the conditions are horrendous just now. The likelihood is there will be more people come to UK as a way of avoiding starvation, but there may be a big language issue. So that could be for the future. I've touched on earlier that for us, getting some geographical dispersity as well, because the issues that affect the urban area can be very different from the rural area. Much of my life, I worked with a big livestock company, and we covered a lot of rural property, where a lot of rural property is still part of your payment package. It's not so common in the towns now, in the cities, but in the rural area, you get a free house, you get a free car, and very little money. The downside is a lot of people feel very stuck in that kind of environment. If the conditions of the house are poor, they feel of no redress. And we're keen to address that kind of stuff. And also, we've pushed very hard to try and get as broad a geographical spread as possible. And we're getting there. Now, Alan, I don't know, Alan's produced a little map that shows where some of our projects are. I'm sure it'll be on the website and you can have a look at that yourself. We're keen to look at any projects. We don't want to just always mimic what is already going on. And at the start, we got quite a lot from local authorities where this was things that we felt they should be funding themselves. And we've been quite resistant to things where people should be funding them themselves. But we've funded a broad range, and I hope we'll continue to do that. Now, Alan, I'm conscious that we want to give 10 or 15 minutes to people to ask questions, because there may be things that folk want to ask that you and I haven't touched on. So if I throw it back to you, Alan, and you can maybe open it up to folks, and I'm happy to repeat things if I've not been clear enough. I'm happy to explain things. I think the important thing is we meet 4 times a year as trustees. There's a very clear time scale, and the deadline for applications will always be set down on our website. We'll have a meeting coming up at the beginning of December. Alan, I think it's this, is it the 2nd of December?
2nd, spot on, yeah. Good.
You'll all be pleased to know that the chairman actually knew when the meeting was going on. So there's a big step forward. And the other thing for you guys is, one of the things is the next deadline for application is Thursday, the 17th of February. Now, I know we're all thinking about Christmas pudding and turkeys and all that kind of stuff, but the 17th of February is our next deadline. So, Alan, if I throw it back to you.
Thanks very much, John. So I'm just going to unmute all of our guests here, and so if you'd like to ask a question audibly, then please feel free to do so. Otherwise, if you'd rather put something in the chat. For anybody who's just joined us or joined us after the introduction, we're answering questions specifically today about the Safe Deposits Scotland Charitable Trust, different to our normal webinars where we maybe focus more on the operation of the scheme and individual deposits. So if you do have any questions about a particular deposit or technical issues in regards to setting something up there, then please do feel free to send a private message and we can follow that up afterwards with our team in the customer service team here. So I'm just going to unmute everybody just now. I'll also say as well, I think a couple of people come on just a little bit later. We are recording, so all being well, we don't have any technical gremlins, and we can get the link to the full session shared out as well. So with me a moment while I unmute you all there. Oops. Oops, sorry about that.
I think you've muted. I think people can hear me, but I think you've cracked it, Alan. Well done.
I can hear you. I think everybody else is still.
I'm the chairman of Safe Deposits Charitable Trust. We have a board of 7 trustees. We meet 4 times a year and we fund projects that fit in with our aims. Our aims, I'm not going to go through them again. They're basically about education. They're about conflict resolution, all within the PRS. So far in 5 years, we've funded 28 projects and we've committed £775,000. Our projects range from about £1,500 to £52,000. Yeah, and Alan is now showing you some of the locations where we've funded projects. This shows you where there are projects. The majority are still in the west of Scotland, but you can see we've got projects in Dundee, we've got projects in Blairgowrie, we've got projects in Clackmannanshire, we've got projects in Inverness. I hope that myself and subsequent chairs of this organisation will be able to get that map even more covered, that places like the Western Isles, Orkney and Shetland, etc. will all be involved. To be fair, you can see we haven't done a great deal in Dumfries and Galloway or the borders so far, but that, we'll come to that. Anyway, hopefully that gives people who have arrived later a little bit of a background about what we're about.
Also on the screen there as well, you'll see our website address. Something we always point out is it's the 2 S's in the middle, Safe Deposits Scotland Trust.com. A bit of a tongue twister there. And then if you have any inquiries, you can email those to info@SafeDepositsScotlandTrust.com. I'm just going to open up the room again here just now to see if we do have any questions from anybody coming in. Nothing I can see just now there.
Can I ask people, one of the things that always interested the trustees is, had you folks heard about Safe Deposits Charitable Trust? Did you know what we were about? Because clearly we live in a world where communication is key. We want people to be aware of what we can do. So can I just do a straw poll? Had anybody before they signed up for this and heard us blethering on even heard about the Charitable Trust? Anybody? So maybe, Alan, maybe that suggests we've still got a bit. Oh, there's one. Good, well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've boosted my morale. I thought nobody'd heard of us. But no, seriously, one of the things that is always difficult is trying to get information out, because yes, we have a decent budget, but we want to spend it on projects to benefit people rather than spending huge amounts of money on marketing. We're not Mars bars or some of these guys that can spend huge amounts. But it's interesting that Anna had heard about us. I don't know about Lindsay and Donald. Had you heard about Safe Deposits Charitable Trust beforehand?
Lindsay says no, sorry, she hasn't. So
Lindsay, that's exactly what we want to hear. Part of this is a straw poll. When I meet our trustees, one of the things that we need to do is to say we may not be getting the message out enough. How about you, Donald? Had you heard of us beforehand? I think he's muted. Well, not to worry. So the bottom line, Alan, is what I'm going to take from this is that the awareness of Safe Deposits Charitable Trust still needs to be something on our agenda for our next meeting, which is on the 2nd of December, and we can have a little chat about how we raise the profile. And we need to do a variety of different things, because I'm really keen to give this money away. The chairman of Safe Deposits always say, John, you're right good at giving away other people's money. So I am. We genuinely are keen to give the money. We've no desire to sit on a big pile of money. We want to give it away to relevant projects, and we want everybody to be aware we're here and why we're here, and to fund things. So thank you for the feedback. And it's always good getting feedback, even if it's not what you want to hear.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. I don't see any other questions coming through just now. Keeping an eye on the chat there, but the email address was up there, and you can find us easily online as well. So if anybody does have any follow-up questions that they would like to, perhaps it's a more detailed or a longer question that you'd rather take some time to pop in an email, please do get in touch with us. I'm going to draw proceedings to a close just now, so I'm just going to thank everybody who has attended this morning. It's been great to have you along here and to listen to us. Sorry, just wee comments come through there from Anna. Thank you very much for this. She says, I have deposits with Safe Deposits Scotland and with Sal. I have found under one roof really helpful. So that's great. Thanks, Anna, for sharing that, and we'll share that feedback with Under One Roof as well, who we've worked very closely with over the past few years. So really appreciate that. And again, John, thank you for.
Thank you. Can I thank everybody? Can I thank Alan for organising this? And can I thank everybody who either is here just now or who has participated in things? And Alan, I think you'll be able to give some sort of link so that if people weren't able to be here, they can see and hear what we've said. So really appreciate it. And as I say, always remember, don't anticipate that you might have missed something. A question is never stupid. A question is legitimate to you. Never be scared to ask a question. One of the big things that Safe Deposits prides itself on is speed and clarity of response. The board of Safe Deposits, which I'm not part of, monitors how quickly we respond, and we're a very quick and slick organisation to responding. So if you ask a question, you will get a response, whether it's to do with the Charitable Trust or Safe Deposits. So thank you all very much. And thank you, Alan.
Well, thank you again. Enjoy the rest of what I hope is a sunny day wherever you may be there. It's okay here in Glasgow just now. But thank you again. I will sign off just now, and have a nice day. And we can get to the stage now. We can say have a nice Christmas when it comes along as well. Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks
Bye-bye,
again.
everybody.
Cheerio just now. Bye.